The Force is female. This is Kathleen Kennedy's big claim to try and get you to value female characters over male characters, most notably Rey, the bestest ever. But how many well-written female characters did Kennedy purge in her relegation of the expanded universe to simple legends? This series will review some of the greatest female characters from the expanded universe, who proved to all little girls out there that they can actually stand tall with the big boys, if they work hard, rather than simply ordering all the big boys to bow down and worship them. Several other content creators are discussing the failures of the Acolyte, probably doing a very good job of it. I'd highly recommend The Critical Drinker. I, however, refuse to give Disney Star Wars any further views, as you have probably heard from my previous installment, the Beskar Coffin Nail. However, from watching the various reviews of the Acolyte, I couldn't help but draw a couple parallels to the expanded universe, what Disney has insultingly relegated to legends. When Disney Star Wars was just getting started, I had the naive view that they might pay homage to the stories that had been discarded. After years of observing Kathleen Kennedy's failures, I am quite sure she has never studied the expanded universe that she rejected. Had she done so, the current failure of the Acolyte could have been easily predicted. While I do not doubt that Leslie Headland came up with the idea of the witch coven and the thread on her own, I cannot help but draw parallels between it and another group of Force-using women. Now, I'm not talking about the Night Sisters of Dathomir, which have been co-opted from the expanded universe and written ad nauseum by Filoni due to his wife being obsessed with witchcraft. Look it up. While there are some similarities in them all being female and living on a mountain, I see more parallels between Headland's witches and the Fallanassi. Both the Headland witches and the Fallanassi are Force users, mostly, if not exclusively, female. Both call the Force something different. Headlands call it the thread, whereas the Fallanassi call it the white current. Both organizations hide from the Jedi and view themselves as superior to the Jedi. Both specialize in deception, the Fallanassi exclusively so. Both believe that the thread or white current should not be altered by anyone but themselves. And deep down, both are authoritarian regimes who are not opposed to using their own powers to kill. As for who the Fallanassi are, I'll give you a brief but thorough breakdown. Not that brief, but briefer than you having to read the entire Black Fleet Crisis trilogy. The Fallanassi are one of the oldest Force-using sects in the galaxy. Some evidence suggests that Abeloth, before she became the insatiable Force monster, was once a member of their tribe, which would indicate that the Order has been around for possibly 100,000 years. If I remember correctly, the Fallanassi all dress in white, and they're an organization that's almost exclusively made up of women. Hence, this episode could be considered one of the Strong Women of Star Wars segments. The Fallanassi are pacifists. I suppose one could argue that they are mostly women because women are inherently more peaceful than men. But that's a subject above my pay grade. As far as I can tell, the Fallanassi do not discriminate on membership based off a species. As for the specifics of how they replenish their numbers, I can only make an educated guess. They either find and invite a male member to join them, or simply venture out, find a male to donate genetic material, and then go home. If the resulting child is a male, they're less likely to keep it, but I like to hope they don't simply abandon it. Now, on to what they do. Simply put, the Fallanassi are illusionists, but far better than anything the Jedi or Sith could pull off. This is because their particular technique requires little, if no, maintenance. By tapping into what they call the white current, a wavelength of Force energy they believe superior to what the Jedi and Sith use, they are able to create some of the most convincing illusions in the galaxy, capable of fooling not only the naked eye, but technological scanners and even Force sense itself. Rather than bend the Force to their will, the Fallanassi make temporary diversions in the white current around whatever they wish to conceal. Thus, it is not their energy, but the energy of the Force itself, or the current, that is used to maintain the illusion. Thus, a Fallanassi illusion can render an entire planet invisible to the galaxy at large, even after the one who cast it is dead. All one needs to do to see through this illusion or this invisibility is to immerse oneself in the white current, or, in less hippie terms, alter your perception of the Force to the white current wavelength, and then you can see what only others in the same wavelength, the white current, can see. But these illusions go past just making things invisible. They can change their appearance to look like someone familiar or unfamiliar, They can conjure fleets of ships or armies of soldiers so realistic, they even respond to attacks like real opponents. Illusions this complex require some maintenance, due to their interactions with non-illusions. For example, changing the illusion to bleed or explode in a way that a normal foe would. But these illusions are so real, it can even have physical reactions on people. The illusions can cause psychosomatic illnesses that mimic real diseases in people who otherwise have absolutely nothing wrong with them. Think the hysterical epidemic plane episode of House. As the Fallanassi are pacifists, they mostly keep their abilities to maintaining invisibility and disguising themselves. But Fallanassi are people, and not all people are good. Spoiler warning. Our first intro into the Fallanassi came in the Black Fleet Crisis trilogy of books. Having gotten over his spaceship girlfriend leaving him, and having reached an unprecedented level of force ability, Luke is having a bit of a midlife crisis. Not entirely crisis, but more a what now moment. He steps away from the academy, leaving one of his earliest knights, Streen, in charge. Good choice in my opinion, powerful, responsible, albeit a bit old. So he goes and finds one of Vader's old castles, demolished, only to easily rebuild it with the Force, and start hanging out there wondering what he should do. The Empire is pretty much defeated, and the Jedi Order has been restored. Luke has redeemed his family legacy. His father and all the Jedi spirits can rest in peace. But what should he do now? And who should come into his life to give him some direction but a random young woman named Akana? Akana says that she's been looking for her old Fallanassi family, who were forced to move and leave her behind while fleeing the Empire. And what's more, Akana says that Luke's mother was a Fallanassi, and probably still living with them. Now anyone who has seen the prequels knows this to be bullshit, but for readers of the era, and Luke himself, this is an amazing find. My mother? What's she like? What did she ever see in Vader? Where's she been this whole time? Why has she never tried to find me? Luke, very excited about this, runs to Leia to tell her about their mother. But the conversation goes a little like that one episode of Cat Dog, i.e. Dog's excited and has several theories about why their parents have taken so long to find them, whereas Cat believes they never cared enough to look. Leia, much like Cat, doesn't care about their mother, because she figures that if their mother couldn't be bothered to find her, why should she bother to respond? Additionally, she's a little stressed about juggling being president and having to raise Force-sensitive kids, and was kind of hoping that Luke could babysit. After a tense exchange in which Han manages to separate the bickering siblings, Luke goes off with Akana to learn about the Fallanassi, the White Current, and his mother. According to Akana, Luke is not only heir to the Jedi, but also the Fallanassi. Luke's mother taught her everything that she knew, and she, in turn, will teach him. However, she insists that he forgo all his Jedi training, killing, violence, and even surrender his lightsaber. He refuses, and they continue to have philosophical debates all through their journey. As they follow the path of breadcrumbs left by the Fallanassi from planet to planet, they are attacked by agents of the Empire, and Luke kills them, horrifying Akana. Eventually, however, she gets over it, and they end up sleeping together. When they finally track down the real Fallanassi, Akana simply disappears, leaving Luke behind. Luke, however, refuses to leave, and eventually meets the Fallanassi leader, an old woman. Through some convoluted plot devices, Luke manages to convince the Fallanassi to assist the New Republic in their current conflict, which has been the backdrop and the title of all three books. To tell the truth, it's the A plot, whereas this Fallanassi search is the B plot. Thus, they assist the New Republic in their current conflict, which is the title of the three books, the Black Fleet. To sum up the A plot, a species of aliens known as the Yvetha took advantage of the Imperial defeat at Endor to rebel and capture a massive fleet of Star Destroyers that the Empire was building in secret above the Yvetha homeworld. Having built up this fleet over the past few decades, they've started a genocidal conquest of all non-Yvethan species in their region of space and slowly expanding, having first sent politicians to mess with the New Republic and make it look as if Leia started everything. Somewhere along the lines, they also capture Han and try to hold him ransom to get Leia to do what they want. Leia, of course, says, "Fuck you," and accepts several world applications for New Republic citizenship, thus making the Yvethan attacks an act of war against the New Republic. Now, the Fallanassi happen to be living in Yvethan space right now, for some random reason, and thus end up forced to help the New Republic fight them. They end up doing so reluctantly and indirectly by making an illusion that the New Republic fleet is larger than it actually is, and influencing the Yvetha to focus their fire on illusions rather than real ships. One Fallanassi, captured much earlier, even managed to free an entire ship full of prisoners by convincing the Yvetha that the prisoners were still there, and later, using her powers to guide Chewie and his son Lumpy to save the one real prisoner the Yvetha still had, Han Solo. The Yvetha are eventually defeated through a combination of Fallanassi illusion, New Republic military might, and a revolt by former Imperial slavers who the Yvethan were keeping as slaves. After the battle, the Fallanassi leader asks Luke not to judge all Fallanassi off of Akana, or to judge Akana too poorly, as she did not have full Fallanassi training. It is revealed that Akana has been taking the Fallanassi concept of deception into overdrive, not just deceiving to survive, but deceiving to attain her own selfish ends. Akana never knew Luke's mother. Luke's mother was never a Fallanassi. And what's more, even the very threat that kept them on the move with such urgency, the Imperial agents who Luke was forced to kill, were an illusion created by Akana. That's right, the men Luke cut down with his lightsaber, who she was so bent out of shape about, were merely hyper-realistic Fallanassi illusions. Admittedly, had Akana not screamed and distracted Luke, he would have realized that they didn't feel like normal bodies when cut. But the illusion was still very real. Luke leaves Akana with her people, and after all this time spent searching for what he believed was important, realizes what he truly needs to do. After dealing with a C-plot involving ancient aliens, in which he uses a Fallanassi illusion to hide a planet that needs time for an ancient alien race to rebuild from a cataclysm that they escaped thousands of years ago, he destroys Vader's castle again, flies to Han and Leia's place, and spends quality time with his real family, including his bratty little nephews and niece. The moral of the story here is that the most important thing in this world is family. Not where you came from, but what you make of it. Jumping ahead to our final depiction of the Fallanassi, and their lowest point, when Abeloth returned to them. Abeloth bent them to her will with a combination of smooth-talking and straight-up mind control. She convinced them that because someone else had altered the flow of the white current so greatly by gazing into the future and changing what he saw there, anything and everything they did now, no matter how callous or cruel, was justified so long as it led to the correction of the current to its original course. All power can be used for good or evil. Even these pacifists, with enough push, ended up corrupted into creating a planet-wide psychosomatic pandemic known as the weeping pox. This disease was so bad that it led to several deaths of a species that had just narrowly escaped an attempted genocide just a couple decades earlier. The last we see of the Fallanassi, they are picking up what's left of their destroyed village after their leader, an Abeloth-possessed Akana, is killed, and Luke leaves them to pursue the escaping Abeloth body. Much like the Callista storyline, the Fallanassi and the Black Fleet trilogy was quite unpopular, most other books just ignoring it, and others treating them with contempt. The Yvetha only showed up in a couple of pages of the Vong War, where they suicide-bombed themselves, a little redundant, stating that only a race more genocidal than them, the Vong, deserved to rule the galaxy. The Fallanassi were completely absent from the Vong War, probably just hiding, which means the white current can influence the Vong better than the Force can. Discussion for another day. The Fallanassi made a brief couple-page appearance at the beginning of the Swarm War, and reappeared in the Fate of the Jedi series, serving as much the same role as Callista, a stepping stone for Abeloth. We can only hope that such a fate awaits the acolyte, although I'd be happy to never have to revisit that show again, except to laugh at it with contempt. Anyway, this concludes sort of an episode of Strong Women of Star Wars, and I suppose a jab at Kathleen Kennedy's Star Wars, which has never been, nor ever will be, real canon Star Wars, in my mind. Please like, subscribe, and review, and I will be releasing the next episode in a couple of weeks. Johnny Boy signing off.